White conservative evangelicals in America are anxious people. I know because I am one. Our sense of fear, perhaps more than any other factor, explains why evangelicals voted in such large numbers for Donald Trump in 2016 and continue to support his presidency. The Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist and essayist Marilynne Robinson once wrote, "Fear is not a Christian habit of mind." The great poet of the Jersey Shore, Bruce Springsteen, sings, "Fear is a dangerous thing. It can turn your heart black. You can trust. It can take a God-filled soul, and turn it to devils and dust." Robinson and Springsteen echo verses in nearly every book of the Bible, the sacred text that serves as the source of spiritual authority in evangelical life. Moses told the Israelites to fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. The Hebrew God told Job, "At the destruction and famine you shall laugh, and shall not fear the beasts of the earth." The psalmist wrote, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff they comfort me." The Gospel of John teaches Christians that there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts our fear. St. Luke writes, "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." Despite all these scriptural passages, it is still possible to write an entire history of American evangelicalism as the story of a people failing miserably at overcoming fear with hope, trust, and faith in their God. But it is also possible to find evangelicals, drawing deeply from Christian theological resources, who sought to forge an alternative history. A history of evangelical fear might begin with the 17th-century Puritans in Salem, Massachusetts, who feared that there were witches in their midst threatening their city upon a hill and their status as God's new Israel. They responded to this fear by hanging 19 people. But other evangelical options were available. As Puritans began to lose control over Massachusetts Bay, they might have turned to their sovereign God for guidance and trusted in his protection to lead them through a new phase in the history of the colony. Or they could have heeded the warnings put forth by those, such as Roger Williams, Anne Hutchinson, or the growing number of Baptists in the colony, who saw potential problems with such a close relationship between church and state. Our history of evangelical fear might also include a chapter on the early 19th century Protestants who feared the arrival of massive numbers of Catholic immigrants to American shores. They translated their panic into political organizations such as the nativist Know Nothing Party and religious tracts cautioning fellow believers of the threat that such popery posed to their Christian nation. But other evangelical options were available. Biblical faith requires evangelicals to welcome strangers in their midst as a sign of Christian hospitality. While some of the most prominent evangelicals of the era, such as Charles Finney and Lyman Beecher, were spewing anti-Catholic rhetoric, other evangelicals could not reconcile such hatred with Christian love. These evangelicals, as the historian Richard Cowardine has written, could be found in all evangelical denominations in the 1840 and 1850s. A history of evangelical fear might also note that Catholics made up just one front in the battle for a Protestant America. Infidels made up the other front. At the turn of the 19th century, evangelicals went to war against unbelievers, deists, skeptics, freethinkers, and other assorted heretics who threatened the godly character of the Republic. Elias Boudinot, a former president of the Continental Congress, agonized that unless he and his team of evangelical federalists curbed the influence of the followers of Thomas Paine, the United States would end up like the Church of Laodicea in the Book of Revelation. "Because you are lukewarm in your faith, I am about to spit you out of my mouth." Jedediah Morse, a Massachusetts minister and the author of geography textbooks, worried that the Bavarian Illuminati, a German anti-Christian secret society, had infiltrated America to abjure Christianity, justify suicide, advocate sensual pleasures agreeable to Epicurean philosophy, decry marriage, and advocate a promiscuous intercourse among the sexes. When godless Thomas Jefferson was elected President of the United States in 1800, frightened New England evangelicals thought the Virginians' henchmen would soon be arriving in their towns and homes on a mission to take away their Bibles. But other evangelical options were also available. While Federalists like Boudinot